Let's talk about what isn't being said. Let's talk about the currents that move beneath the surface of modern interaction, the truths about human connection that feel too raw, too primal, to fit into a polite conversation. Early pioneers of the mind suggested that our conscious life is just a fraction of the story, that we are driven far more by what we conceal, even from ourselves, than by what we proudly proclaim. When you apply that lens to understanding dynamics between men and women, the landscape changes entirely. It becomes less about words and more about whispers, less about stated logic and more about hidden circuitry. This isn't about blame or judgment. It's about clarity. Most confusion doesn't come from malice. It comes from a fundamental mismatch. You are trying to decipher a complex text by only reading the title, while the entire novel, the thrilling, contradictory, instinctive novel, is written in a language of behavior, emotion, and biological heritage you haven't been taught. What you see is the modern facade, the articulate opinion, the curated personality, the socially calibrated response. But what drives action, attraction, and attachment comes from older, deeper layers. Layers shaped by millennia of survival, strategy, emotional calculus, and primal recognition. While you're busy presenting your resume to her conscious, rational mind, her instinctual self, the ancient, fast operating system, has already scanned you and reached a verdict. That verdict isn't delivered in words. It's delivered in a feeling of magnetism or a feeling of irrelevance. This disconnect is why you can do everything right on paper and still feel invisible. It's why connection can seem to flicker on and off without warning. We're about to delve into the architecture of that instinctual self, but I need you to prepare for a perspective shift. This requires setting aside the comforting idea of a perfectly rational, predictable partner. We are entering the realm of human nature in all its dazzling, often inconvenient, complexity. If this journey into deeper understanding resonates with you, if you're ready to look beneath the surface, then do this channel a solid. Hit that subscribe button and ring the notification bell. What we explore here is a continuous excavation, and you won't want to miss what comes next. Now let's begin. The first layer, the internal dual. The first and most critical concept to grasp is that female psychology, like much of human psychology, is not a monolith. It is a dynamic, often tense, dialogue. Two fundamental versions of the self coexist. Understanding this is the master key that unlocks a world of confusion. On one side, you have the social self. This is the modern, conscious identity. It's articulate, socially aware, and values coherence. This self knows what it's supposed to want, what it's supposed to say. It's informed by culture, peer groups, family expectations, and contemporary narratives. This is the self that holds conscious opinions, articulates values, and constructs a public persona. It's intelligent, adaptive, and necessary for navigating the modern world. Then, operating on a different frequency, you have the instinctual self. This is the older, faster, nonverbal system. It doesn't debate, it reacts. It doesn't deal in political correctness or social trends. It deals in raw signals of security, vitality, strength, and genetic potential. This self is visceral, emotional, and strategic in a Darwinian sense. It seeks certain feelings, the feeling of safety, the thrill of attraction, the resonance of depth. Here is where the conflict arises, and where most men lose their way. These two selves are often at odds. The social self might value a kind, agreeable, reliably pleasant partner. The instinctual self might be drawn to a presence that is less predictable, more grounded, more challenging in a way that signals strength. The social self might articulate a desire for total transparency. The instinctual self can be bored by it, craving a sense of mystery and depth. When you listen only to her words, the product of her social self, and ignore the language of her behavior, the output of her instinctual self, you are having a conversation with only half the person. And it's the half that doesn't ultimately control the gates of genuine, sustained desire. Scientific research sheds light on this internal divide. Studies in psychophysiology have shown that individuals can exhibit physiological arousal, the body's instinctive response, to stimuli that their conscious mind verbally rejects. The body speaks a truth the mind might rationalize away. This gap, this chasm between stated preference and visceral reaction, is where countless connections die. Your most crucial skill, therefore, is not eloquent argument. It is dual-layer perception. You must learn to observe two channels simultaneously. 1. The verbal channel. What is she saying? 2. The behavioral channel. What is her body, her tone, her pattern of action revealing? Is she saying, "I'm not sure," while leaning in, maintaining prolonged eye contact, and finding reasons to touch her hair or your arm? The behavioral channel is the older, more honest signal. Is she agreeing politely while her posture is closed, her gaze distant, and her energy receding? Again, the body narrates the true story. This internal duel explains the great paradoxes. Why she can cherish one man as a partner but feel a powerful attraction to another. Why her actions sometimes contradict her professed desires. It's not duplicity. It's the tension between two powerful, often competing, internal forces. I want to pause here and ask you a question that's crucial for your growth. Does this idea of an internal conflict resonate with your experiences? Have you seen this duality in action? Drop a comment below with your thoughts. This dialogue is how we all learn and refine our understanding. And if you're finding value, please share this video with a friend who needs to see it. The second layer, the magnetism of calibrated strength. Once you perceive this duality, the next question is, what does the instinctual self actually seek? If it's not persuaded by logical debate or performative kindness, what triggers its engagement? The core signal it is scanning for is not mere agreeability. It is calibrated strength. It is drawn to emotional and psychological stability that manifests as a quiet, unshakable presence. Let's dismantle a major misconception. This has nothing to do with domination, aggression, or control over others. In fact, those are often signs of weakness, of a fragile ego trying to impose itself. The strength that resonates on this primal level is inner sovereignty. It is the quality of a man who is the author of his own reality. He is not easily thrown off his center by external chaos, by social pressure, or by a woman's fluctuating emotions. His emotional state is not a puppet danced on the strings of others' approval or disapproval. Think of it as a nonverbal hierarchy of composure. When tension arises, a disagreement, an unexpected problem, a social challenge, the man who remains rooted in his own principles and calm communicates more power in his silence than another man does in a passionate argument. Arguing, pleading, and over-explaining often register not as passion, but as a loss of emotional control. They signal that his equilibrium is dependent on her immediate validation. Evolutionary psychology and modern studies point to this. Research has indicated that traits like emotional stability, confidence, not arrogance, and the ability to remain composed under pressure are consistently rated as highly attractive. This makes profound sense from a survival perspective. A partner who is mentally resilient, reliable, and a source of stability is a profound asset. This is the genesis of true magnetism. It's a triad of signals. 1. Direction, a sense of purpose. He is moving towards something in his life. He is not static, waiting to be given a purpose by a relationship. 2. Composed centeredness, not cold indifference, but a stable, predictable emotional core. He is not reactive. His mood isn't a storm others must weather. 3. Unspoken intent. This is the subtle, respectful, but undeniable communication of masculine energy. It's not lewd commentary. It's the confidence of presence, the comfort in one's own skin, the ability to hold a gaze that says, "I see you," without neediness. When you embody this triad, you are speaking directly to the instinctual self. You bypass the rational debate her social self might enjoy and create a feeling of safety mixed with excitement. This is the alchemy. The safety of his stability makes the excitement of his presence possible. The modern, social narrative often verbally rejects the concept of dominance, but the instinctual response to calm, assured, non-reactive strength is timeless and undeniable. The man who seeks permission for his existence is overlooked. The man who owns his existence, respectfully, is remembered. We're covering ground that very few talk about with this level of honesty. If this is changing your perspective, show some love, smash that like button. It tells the algorithm this content matters and helps other men find this crucial information. The third layer, the depth principle and the bond of admiration. We arrive now at the deepest, most powerful layer, the principle of depth and the resulting bond of admiration. This is the forbidden pillar because it challenges the modern myth of total, instant transparency as the peak of intimacy. The instinctual self does not bond deeply with what it can fully comprehend and control. It bonds with what it must look up to. Attraction is fundamentally hierarchical on a psychological and emotional plane. She may enjoy the company of a man who is entirely predictable and accommodating, but she will feel a profound, lasting attachment to the man who possesses layers she has not yet fully mapped. This is not about playing games or being deceitfully mysterious. It is about having a genuine, rich, structured internal world. A man of depth has core missions in his life that exist independently of any relationship, his work, his art, his causes, his growth. Internal standards he does not compromise for cheap approval. A rich inner dialogue, curiosity, knowledge, passions he can speak on with authority. Emotional resilience. He processes his own emotions. He is not a vacuum waiting for someone else to fill him with purpose or happiness. This depth creates an abyss effect, not a scary void, but an intriguing sense of scale. She perceives that there is more to him than what is immediately on display. This perception is the seed of admiration, and admiration is the non-negotiable cornerstone of sustained, passionate desire. Without it, affection may exist, but the spark of true longing fades. Neuroscience touches on this. The brain's reward system, fueled by neurotransmitters like dopamine, is activated by novelty, challenge, and things we perceive as valuable and slightly out of our immediate grasp. Total predictability kills dopamine. A man who is fully known, who has no independent psychological substance, becomes background noise. Conversely, a man who is on a path, who maintains his frame, who has a quiet certainty about his direction, generates a sense of novelty and value. He is not an open book to be skimmed. He is a compelling series to be followed. This activates her curiosity, her investment, and yes, her desire. The critical mistake is believing that emotional vulnerability means spilling every insecurity on the first date, or that connection means having no private mental space. True vulnerability is the strength to be authentic in the moment, not the compulsion to disclose every past detail. True connection requires two whole, distinct individuals coming together, not two halves merging into a blur. When she says she wants a sensitive man, she doesn't mean a fragile man. She means a perceptive man, a man of emotional intelligence who can navigate depth, both hers and his own. When she says she wants attention, she doesn't mean constant, suffocating focus. She means quality attention, the attention of a man who is fully present when he is with her, precisely because he is not desperately waiting for her to give his life meaning when he is not. This is the breakthrough. The feminine instinct doesn't ultimately desire control. It desires to surrender to something worthy, not to subjugation, but to admiration. It desires a partner who is an anchor and a horizon simultaneously. I'm curious, which of these three layers is the biggest revelation for you? Is it the internal duality, the magnetism of strength, or the power of depth? Let me know in the comments. Your insights help shape our future discussions. Synthesis and path forward. Let's bring this all together. You are no longer looking at a surface, but at a dynamic, layered psychological landscape. 1. You recognize the duality, the constant, quiet tension between the social self and the instinctual self. You now know to listen to behavior as much as to words. 2. You understand the signal. The instinctual self is seeking calibrated strength, inner sovereignty, and composed presence, not performative agreement. 3. You comprehend the bond. Lasting attraction is forged in the fire of admiration, which is born from perceiving genuine depth and psychological substance. This knowledge is not a weapon for manipulation. It is a map for navigation. Its ultimate purpose is to reconstruct the masculine approach, to move you from a frame of reaction, begging, pleading, seeking validation, fearing loss, to a frame of action, leading your own life with purpose, engaging from a place of wholeness, and attracting from a position of strength. It replaces confusion with clarity. You now have a framework to understand the why behind bewildering behaviors, the hot and cold cycles, the attraction to men who seem wrong on paper, the fate of passion in otherwise perfect relationships. It was never about being a nice guy or a bad boy. It was always about being a whole, integrated man. The journey from here is one of application. It's about internalizing this structure and building that core of purpose, stability, and depth within yourself. This work is perpetual. It's about becoming a student of human nature, starting with your own. This channel is dedicated to that ongoing journey, to translating deep psychological principles into actionable steps for living a more powerful, grounded, and attractive life. If you want to master these layers, to go from intellectual understanding to embodied skill, then your next step is clear. Stay with us. Subscribe and hit the bell for notifications, because we break down these concepts weekly with practical strategies, case studies, and deep dives. We have much more to explore, from decoding specific behaviors to building unshakable confidence from the inside out. But for now, I'll leave you with this. The most attractive thing you will ever build is not your body or your bank account, though those matter. It is your character, your integrity, your mission, your unshakable core. Focus there, and the world and the connections within it will rearrange itself around you. If this video added value to your life, pay it forward. Share it, like it, and tell us what you want to dive into next in the comments below. Your journey continues now.